Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Michael. I'll be your host for today. I am a cloud solutions architect for Massdriver. Massdriver is a single pane of glass for managing infrastructure and services from design through day two operations by enabling developer self-service. So during the webinar, members of my team are going to be in the chat answering any and all questions. I'll be able to respond to chat as well. Let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about scripting with Massdriver. We're going to briefly overview the Mass CLI and what it's capable of. We'll then create a bash script to patch and deploy two regional apps in two different environments. We'll then look at how to do the same thing using Massdriver's GraphiQL, and then we'll end on setting up and running some GitHub Actions. All right, so the Massdriver CLI tool is a powerful command line interface for interfacing with the Massdriver platform. We can do some really cool things with this tool. I'll add a link to the CLI in the chat, and then we'll talk about what we can do with it. So we have the ability to patch and deploy our applications and infrastructure. By this, I mean we can update the fields in deployed applications and infrastructure to new values, and then we can deploy those changes straight from our terminal. We can also create new applications and infrastructure bundles, customize them as we need to, and then publish them to our own bundle catalog. The CLI has a command that will build your Docker images and then push them up to a cloud container registry for you, outputting the repository URL needed to reference the image in your application's configuration. You can also publish privately built custom artifact definitions that you can use in any of your own bundles. So let's use a terminal to set up the CLI and run a script that will patch two of our applications after a new image build and redeploy both applications. First, I'd like to share what I currently have deployed in the Massdriver UI. So we'll go ahead and switch over to this. So I have a project set up with a basic application running in East US. When I open the configuration of my application, I can see in the config page that we have v1 set for my Docker image. Now let's go ahead and swap over to the West US environment, and we're going to check the same thing. If I click on my app in my config page, and I have v1 set up for my image tag. Great. So now I'm going to swap to my terminal so that we can run a script to build and push a new image and then update those fields to redeploy my applications simultaneously. So I'm going to go ahead and share a new screen. And it's going to be my terminal. Okay. I'm going to make my terminal a little bit smaller here. There we go. Okay. So I have a script that I've written for this webinar that's going to allow me to do what I just talked about, building and pushing a Docker image, patching two of my applications, and then redeploying both of my applications. Let's go ahead and look at that script real quick. This is a real basic bash script, takes a couple inputs. I enter in my artifact ID, and then it'll run mass image push for me, and then it'll go through and then patch my first application, redeploy it, patch my second application, and redeploy it. So it's a super simple script with just a few prompts. It'll push my image to Azure Container Registry in my case, because my artifact is set up with Azure. So let's go ahead and run the script. So we're just going to do patch.sh, and then it's going to ask for my first app name. That's going to be script East US RPS. And then my second app is script West US RPS. My tag, I'm going to enter in v2 for my tag because it's going to be a new update. And then my artifact ID, let me go ahead and fetch that real quick. All right, paste it in, and then we'll run it. So this is going to take a couple minutes to run through the script. Excuse me. Um, so while we wait for this script to finish executing, I do want to point out, I do want to announce that we're going to be at the Vive conference this month in Los Angeles, February 26th to the 28th. And we're also going to be at KubeCon in Paris, March 19th to the 22nd. So if anyone is attending either conference, please feel free to stop by and say hi, and maybe grab some swag as well from our booths. I'll be there on Tuesday and Wednesday at Vive. And then, like I said, we're also going to be in Paris for KubeCon, which is super exciting. And then we are also hosting another gathering of outings and outages next Tuesday at Prank Bar in LA from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Now, what this means is there's going to be free booze, free food. There's not going to be any hard sells at this event. It's just going to be a bunch of hanging out, talking DevOps, things like that. Our CEO Corey is going to be there. Some other members of our team are going to be there. The last one was a blast, and we hope to see you there at the next one. So it looks like if we're going through the logs here, that my image was built. Here's the output URL that I was referencing that I can add into my application if I was deploying a new one. And then here's the new tag that I was set to. It patched my East US application, and now it's running the deployment for that. And as soon as this finishes up, it's going to patch my West US application and then run the deployment for that one as well. So the script is going to take just another minute or so to finish. And what I can do is while this is wrapping up, I can switch over to the Massdriver CLI, or sorry, the Massdriver UI, and I can show you that the application was patched and that it's in a deploying state. That way we can kind of show that off. So I'll go ahead and switch over. And I'll refresh my page and share this. Okay, so this is my East US app. As we can see, the provision is running, so my application is redeploying. And if I click on the configuration page, we see that my application is now set to V2. If I switch over to West US, because the script is still running, I believe it's still on V1, but it'll catch up with us in just a minute as soon as the application redeploys. And I'm just going to let that run in the background while this is deploying. And we kind of showcased what we were able to do with the CLI. You know, we built and pushed our Docker image to Azure Container Registry. We patched our applications, and that part's in process, and also redeploying after the patch. So what I can do now, since this is running a little bit longer than I anticipated, we can go ahead and switch over to GraphQL and see what that's like as well. I can kind of take a walk through. And I see within the terminal that the deployment for East US just finished. As we can see, it's now provisioned. I'll switch over to East US, and now this provision is running. And then if I look at the configuration, it's set to V2. So let me go ahead and switch over to the GraphQL, and we'll go ahead and play around with that. So this is Massdriver's public API. I'll post a link to this as well to the chat for anyone who is a customer of Massdriver. If you're a user of Massdriver, you do have access to this. I've written out a couple of mutations using GraphiQL that will essentially update our application's tag and then redeploy our application. So I've written out a tab for each. If we go through, this is my East application tab. So what I can do with this mutation, this is just patching my existing application with the variables that I've listed down here, and then it is deploying that application. Same thing in the West, just different variables that are exposed there. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and we'll expand this a little bit. I'm going to patch my EastUS application. If I go over here to V1, this is where the tag is set and the params. And I know it's set to V2 right now. What I'd like to do is set this to V3. And then I'm going to go ahead and run patch East app. Okay, so that ran. Let's go ahead and switch over. We'll switch our tab to East. We'll take a look at the configuration and it's set to V3. So if I go ahead and go back to GraphQL, now I'll run the deploy for East app. We can see the deployment has initiated, and then I'll switch back. And there we go. We can see that the deployment was just initiated for my EastUS app to get the V3 version. If I look over at West US, the deployment just finished up, perfect timing. Again, it is sitting on V2. I can do the same thing with my other tab. I can go into the variables, find the tag field, switch this to V3, and then we'll go ahead and patch and deploy. So now the deployment is running for my West US app. And then if I click on the config page, it is now set to V3. So both of the applications are redeploying. That was a pretty simple sample of how to, patch and deploy using our GraphQL. Our API is a powerful tool that can be used to manage your entire organization and can be accessed using the GUI. It can be accessed using Node, Python, or even a simple curl command. So now that we've wrapped up with our CLI and our GraphQL usage, I'd like to go ahead and dive into some GitHub Actions. Hello, what kind of scripting are you working on? Yeah, good question. So the kind of scripting that I'm working on is scripting tasks within Massdriver, the Massdriver platform. And so I'm using the Mass CLI tool. I'm using GraphQL and GitHub Actions to do some pretty simple actions within my environment, which is my application here, my Kubernetes cluster, my storage account. I'm doing some simple actions of updating my Docker image tag and then redeploying that application so that I can pull the newest image. But I am also showcasing the ability that you can do some pretty cool and advanced things with the tools available from Massdriver to make the automation and management of your cloud infrastructure and applications in Massdriver easier. So good question, and that's what I'm showcasing here today. So let's go ahead and switch over to my repo here. So this is my rock, paper, scissors game repo. And I'll go ahead and open up the action that I have for it. We'll go to the workflow. And here we go. So this is a basic GitHub action that I've set up for my applications. We're going to overview basically what it does real quick, and then we're going to run it. So the first thing that it does is install the Massdriver CLI tool, and then it'll do the image push, image build and push that I was talking about, mass image push. It'll build out your Docker image. It'll push it to your cloud container registry, in my case, Azure Container Registry, and then it'll reference that output URL so that it can be used for other things. And as you can see here, I'm not setting a version tag on this particular action. I'm actually using the git commit SHA here. And this is pretty cool. I can automatically set the tag for me. And then that way it'll continue using the git commit SHA as a tag going forward. It'll then publish any changes to the bundle. So what this means is if we made any changes to the massdriver.yaml file or any of the other bundle files specific to my application, it'll publish those changes, and then I'll have those updates available on my next deploy. Excuse me. We will then set the image version of app1, which is my EastUS app. We'll set the tag to the git commit SHA. we'll set the tag of the git commit SHA to my West US app, and then we'll redeploy both applications. So very simple GitHub action that I'm going to go ahead and run for you. So we're just going to rerun all of our jobs here. And then it'll go through the process of executing GitHub action. Nothing very fancy here that we're going to see. It's going to be pretty much the same thing that we saw in the CLI. It's going to be going through that process of building out the Docker image, pushing it to Azure Container Registry, and then patching and deploying our applications. So while this runs, it's going to take about 5 minutes to complete. While we're waiting on this to run, I'd like to go through the process of building out a new GitHub action live on the webinar. We're going to build a GitHub action for our custom Azure blob bundle that I've built. And then I'd like to build an action that publishes changes of the bundle every time I commit to main, and then also publishes changes to my custom artifact definition. So let's go ahead and do that now while this is running. So this is my repo for my Azure Storage Account blob. And then if I go in the artifacts directory, I have a custom artifact definition that I've built out for this bundle. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my actions, and we're going to create a new action. Okay, so I'm just going to copy in some basics. This is straight from our doc site for setting up CI/CD with Massdriver for your infrastructure bundles. So this is straight from that doc. It gets us most of the way there. As you can see, we're doing similar things. We're installing the CLI, and then we're publishing our bundle to our bundle catalog. But we do need to add one more step, and that step is publishing our custom artifact definition. So let's go ahead and add that in. So we are going to add a new step. This is going to be name, publish artifact definition, and then uses Massdriver Cloud Actions as a definition publish at v4. And then with, we need to specify the file path. So the file path to our artifact definition is going to be artifacts/Azure Storage Account blob.json. So this is the published artifact definition step. This is really all we need. This looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and commit these changes. We're going to create main.yaml and just push it straight to main. So now if we go into our actions, this action is already executing, and this one should go through fairly quickly. Oh, and this one failed. Let's see. Valid inputs are file. Okay, so I need to update my deployment.yaml to be just file. Let's go back into the file here. Oops. Edit this, and we'll just call this file. Okay, that one should run through. And I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my other GitHub action while this is running. We can see that this GitHub action has successfully deployed. No issues. If I switch over to Massdriver now and refresh, we are going to see that my applications have a new image tag, and it's set to the git commit SHA. If I switch to my other East US application, we're going to see the same thing. Hey, what's up, Bush? Same thing, git commit SHA. Perfect. Okay, so let's check on the GitHub action for my custom bundle, and everything ran through perfectly. Awesome. So we just ran through this process of running two different GitHub actions. My first GitHub action was to build and push a Docker image, patch two of my applications, and then redeploy those applications. The second GitHub action that we just built published any changes to my custom infrastructure bundle, and then also published changes to my custom artifact definition that is used by my infrastructure bundle. I can now include these GitHub Actions into my CI process, which is an awesome thing. So that's pretty much the wrapping up of the GitHub Actions. We'll go ahead and switch back here. To recap, we toured some of the capabilities of the Mass CLI tool. We use the CLI to patch changes and deploy our applications based on those changes. We then use the GraphQL to bump the image tag versions again and redeployed our applications there. And then we finished up by setting up some GitHub Actions for applications, our infrastructure, and our custom artifact definition. This concludes our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll be sticking around to answer some questions. And if you're interested in learning more about Massdriver, please check out massdriver.cloud. Oh, we have a question here. So can a Massdriver diagram be exported to any kind of file in case I need to move to a new account? That's a good question. I don't quite have the answer for that yet, but I will find out. Um, I believe exporting to a type of file is something that we are in the process of working on. But as far as moving to a new account, I'm not really sure if that is going to be supported right off the bat, but I can definitely find out for you. We recently adopted Massdriver and we're excited to start using it. That's fantastic. Palguda, have you set up a call with us to get a tour of the platform? If not, I would highly encourage you to do so. And then that way we can get answers to your question like the diagram export live and be able to find a use case for that capability as well. I'm not sure that was my CEO who did it, but I'm currently researching with the info that I can get into how to use Massdriver. Okay, so let me go ahead and send you a Calendly link. Open up a new window here. Actually, if you'd like to go to this site here, I'll post it in YouTube. So this will book a demo with us. But if you explicitly say, hey, I was at your webinar and I'd like to find out more information about this, we'll gather that information for you. And then we will be able to share that information with you live on the call, as well as answering any other questions that you or your CEO might have. We even started setting up new infrastructure models, a diagram with Azure. We've been working on migrating from AWS to Azure with Massdriver. That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to hop on a call with you and find out more about that transition, the migration. I can provide you with helpful insights that I've had migrating other customers from AWS to Azure using Massdriver. I'm glad to see that you're going down that path, and I'd be eager to help you out if you're open to it. That's awesome. Is there a way we can provide either the info, my CEO can jump on the call? Absolutely. Yeah. If you want, you can just shoot me an email. So my email is michael@massdriver.cloud right here. If you want to shoot me an info with your email with your information, I'd be happy to set up a call with you and your CEO and answer all of your questions. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm looking forward to meeting you and your CEO, and I'm glad you enjoyed the webinar. We do have other webinars that we've recorded in our YouTube channel. If you're interested in checking those out, I'll go ahead and bring up a link for that. If you're interested, we have a lot of cool content on there, something that your CEO might be interested in checking out as well. And for anyone that's just hopping in case you missed the webinar, it is recorded. I just posted the link to our YouTube channel uh, for YouTube. I'll go ahead and post it in the Twitch channel as well. I just covered a webinar for scripting with Massdriver. So if you're interested in learning more about Massdriver or checking out the video that we just recorded, it's going to be uploaded to YouTube as soon as I end the stream. But feel free to use this opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. Happy to answer them. We're also continuously hosting open office hours the first Wednesday of every month. That's another great opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, whether it's about Massdriver or platform engineering, about DevOps. Usually we're joined by a couple guests, sometimes my CEO, sometimes some other people, and we just talk DevOps, we talk platform engineering, stuff like that. Good opportunity to ask questions and dive into some deep topics. All right, well, that's about time for our stream. Again, thank you to everybody who joined us. I hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait to interface with you on the next one. Keep an eye out, massdriver.cloud/webinars for our upcoming webinar schedule. Open office hours coming the first Wednesday in March. And it was great to see you here, Pelgueta. I'm looking forward to meeting you and your CEO. Yeah, just shoot me an email. All right, thanks, guys. Take care.